Hi, I'm Tony Russo, and this is Funeral Service Insider, the podcast from Kates-Boylston. Conversations worth having about the culture and business surrounding death care and end-of-life care. This week, we have a great conversation with Michael Jewart. He's the new Chief Commercial Officer at Starmark, which means he's the guy who is going to be in charge of growing Starmark a lot fast. We talk a little bit about his early career, but mostly about his plans to transform Starmark, or I guess to help grow it into a national force to be reckoned with. And he's got some really interesting plans for doing that. And as always, please hang around after the credits for a little bit of a word from me about some background on this conversation. But we're going to get to it right after these words from our friends and sponsors at NGL. Head to the National Guardian Life Insurance Company booth at this year's NFDA convention in Chicago to meet keynote speaker and pianist Felipe Gomez. Plus, be on the lookout for a big musical surprise as you head into the exhibit hall. For over 116 years, NGL has focused on providing pre-need insurance that hits all the right notes. Stop by booth 1639, that's 1639, October 26th through 29th to learn more. So when I got the email that said that you had this new position, I was a little confused, and that's why one of the many reasons I reached out, but it's always cool to get to talk to a new person in charge. So can you tell me your current gig at Starmark and how you got there? Because in our pre-interview, we were talking and you mentioned that you started off as an AP photographer. So can you connect the dots?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So when I started my career, I started off as a photographer and worked for the Associated Press and some local papers and the Phoenix area, and had an awesome experience being a photographer. Got to shoot Major League Baseball games and NFL games. I shot the 2001 World Series and presidents, and it was really a lot of fun. The downside of being a photographer is my equipment was actually worth more than my salary, so there wasn't a ton of money in
tell me about it.
Time. But it was fun. I mean, that was back in the days in the 1900s when we still used film, right? And it wasn't all digital, and late nights and a lot of stress if you got the image or not, and holding the presses. So that was a lot of fun. And but I put myself through school doing that. And once I got my bachelor's degree, I knew I wanted to get my master's degree, and I just happened to be fortunate enough to be living in Phoenix. And the deal with the University of Phoenix is if you went to work there, you could get your master's degree for free. And so that's why I went and I joined the University of Phoenix. And
it's interesting that the University of Phoenix actually it was a thing and then became a thing, because there was a dicey period where who would ever take a degree online? What a dumb thing to suggest.
It's wild. They went online in 1989 before most people were on the internet. I was very fortunate, and my VP had nominated me to be part of their leadership development group. And I actually got to spend time with John Sperling, their founder, personally go to his house, have dinner, conversations, and just an amazing visionary founder who saw a problem, right, of people not being able to finish their degrees and getting into their lives and not having time to finish school, and created a solution that became $1 billion company. Just amazing.
When you work at a company like that, you're really kind of cast a C. There's no template for something like that. So how do you figure out what to do from a position like that?
That's a great question. I think when you're involved in an environment where there's so much growth, it provides you either an opportunity to succeed, right, or fail miserably. And so I think you find skill sets and you find patterns and you find resources on how do you work together as a team and how do you scale something, right? Whether it be the technology or the people or the service in particular, that's difficult. And I was really fortunate to have the opportunity where the chief commercial officer of the global brand asked me to go international and to scale it internationally. He had asked originally for me to go to Dubai, I'm a little ashamed to say at the time, I didn't realize how great Dubai was. I was a little scared. Ultimately, he came back to me about a month. I told him no, and a month later, he said, "How about you go to Rotterdam?" And I was like, "Okay, I know Europe. I could do Europe." And I had an amazing opportunity to be able to hire and support 45 people over there and grow the brand internationally. Ultimately, it became $1 billion merger with some other universities over there, and that was really, the start of me helping scale businesses.
And that is the other thing that really was interesting to me, because eventually you end up at SCI, and a lot of times I think we think of the funeral industry as kind of rarefied, and it has rarefied aspects, but it also has, the kind of dollars and cents aspects where someone who knows what they're doing can come in and not necessarily, have done a lot of embalmings and still be able to make to see from the outside what can be fixed and what can be expanded upon. So, does that make any sense to you? Can you tell me what it was like when you heard about coming into when you started to consider coming into funeral industry?
Yeah, absolutely. It does, right? Because if you believe in service, if you believe in serving people, whether it's in their time of need or any other product, it is about making sure that they have the best experience possible, the best service possible. And when I got into SCI, John Sense is the gentleman that brought me in, and it was my mergers and acquisitions experience around product and around experience that he was very much interested in. And it was, how do we take two great companies? How do we take all the products and services we have together, merge them, get rid of the ones that don't work, keep the ones that do work, and develop products and services that really resonate with families before, during, and after their time of need, right? And that's how I approach death care, the funeral service, the entire time.
Hmm.
Is how do we get products and services that resonate with customers?
And when you were there, you ran well. You participated in something, I think you described it as some sort of Shark Tanky thing. Can you tell me how you use that to get a sense of what's going to work and what's going to not?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did a number of different focus groups, which would be the end consumers, showing them products and services that they would like, and they would rate them and see things like that. But probably the most fulfilling part was we had a new product manager that was part of the team. Her name's Julia, and we ran product councils throughout North America where we'd bring in dignity professionals, and we'd bring in products or potential products that we were looking at launching. So we brought in around 30 products, and we'd have these throughout North America and have the funeral professionals rate the product on, okay, what would this experience be like for our families? And what would this add value to us as an organization? And it was a really great opportunity for those new products and services to, pitch us for roughly 10 minutes. We'd ask them questions for 5 minutes and then score them. And it was really a great opportunity to see what we could do as an organization.
Do you recall? I'm sorry. So I have a counter story, a little bit of a counter story. I think mine's a little more exciting. My father worked for Pepperidge Farm, and he'd bring home these blank cookies, and sometimes they wouldn't make them, and that was just the most depressing thing to me. And so I'm wondering, was there anything you saw that you liked that disappeared, or was there something that you saw that you liked that you guys chose and stayed around, like as an example that you're proud of or that sticks in your mind, or was it too much?
There's so many, right?
Oh,
And I think one of the challenges we have is when a family is at their time of need, if they haven't pre-needed, they're faced with so many choices. And probably the hardest part as a merchant is deciding what products and services to show them at what timing, right? Before, during, and after time of need.
right.
And so, yeah, there's so many. Like, there is a company that did DNA banking, and so there's some potential health benefits to that as well, where your future offspring could take a look at it and they could see what kind of potential diseases they might have in front of them to be worried about. One that we never launched that I really always enjoyed, and is a problem that not a lot of people realize, is when you have older family, like mother and father, whatever the case might be, and one of them passes away. Sometimes they decide to go move in with some of their children, et cetera. But a lot of times they want to be by themselves. And there's some great products that are out there that monitor the home in a very respectful way, right? Nobody wants a camera in their bedroom, right? Or
Right.
the bathroom or wherever. And there's some really great services out there where, as funeral professionals, we can point those families into these technologies that can make it easier for people as they reach their twilight years, to live out their life with respect and dignity, but yet we still can check on them and make sure that they're safe.
Um, your knack seems to be finding the parts to keep, as you said, and the parts that don't need to be kept. So in your next role with the diamond company, that seems like a very salient example of how you can find a company that works so well that it should become its own company as opposed to merging with someone else, for example.
Yeah, what was great is I met Adele and Garrett who are the founders of Eternova, through that product council work that we did.
Ah,
Garrett had wanted me to be an advisor for him. I let him know, hey, I can't. It'd be a conflict of interest while I'm here. And Garrett was awesome, right? He always found a reason to be in my neck of the woods. He was always coming up with an excuse to spend time with me. And then finally, he came with an offer and an opportunity, and the timing was right for me to join them. And what Garrett and Adele did so well with Eternova was they created a brand that is about storytelling. They created a brand that creates excitement and you're basically celebrating the life of someone that's remarkable. And we were able to take that and scale the storytelling brand. I mean, Memorial Diamonds had been around for a long time, a very long time, and they had a new look on it. And I think that's the unique thing is what I enjoy doing is listening. And that, I think, is the superpower, is listening for understanding and what is the vision that people have. And if you can listen to the vision that they have, you can help them grow and penetrate markets.
and so now, how did you end up at Starmark?
It's a great question. So I was working, the former VP over at SEI, who was in charge of all the procurement and the merchandising, he decided to retire. His name's Ron Lazinski. And as he was retiring, he reached out and he said, hey, I've got this vision. I'm done with the day to day, but I'd probably like to work for the foreseeable future in really helping other organizations leverage their scale and help suppliers understand how to scale responsibly and drive revenue with cremation. And so we talked a little bit, and we had some really unique programs where we call it shared success. So as we helped organizations, he and I would get a percentage of either new revenue growth or savings, and just an amazing opportunity. And so we worked with pretty much everybody in the industry, which is great, and got a chance to work with them and listen to their needs and share some of our best practices and put those into place. And was really enjoying every aspect of that. And one of those clients did happen to be Starmark. I've known the team there for over a decade and did some consulting work with them. Created a roadmap on how to grow, and specifically how to grow more locally, how to have a physical presence so you can both be closer to your customer in terms of your physical presence and grow a closer relationship with them in the markets where they are. And over time, Alan, the CEO and chairman, had reached out and he said, how do I get Michael Jewart more involved? And I said, well, we do have some programs where we can be fractional. We can help you. He goes, no, I want you full time. And so we talked through the vision of Starmark. We talked about, what's important to me and how we serve funeral professionals, and those values aligned up very, very much. And, it's exciting to have the opportunity to be here at Starmark and now be in charge of scaling Starmark to be a North American, huge brand and maybe beyond.
Your official title is Chief Commercial Officer, and I want to talk about this idea of scaling, because that's the fact that you took the job seems to me to see you already see how this can work out, right? If your expertise so far has been in figuring out what to keep and what to get rid of, and then you decide to take this job, I guess you kind of have a vision. So what is your kind of day-to-day? What does your day-to-day look like? And what is your vision for how Starmark's going to move forward in the nearer term and then in the longer term?
Yeah, that's great. So my role is Chief Commercial Officer and the General Manager of Starmark. We approach it as, it doesn't really matter what a title is, right? My function is to make sure that we're delivering growth for funeral professionals, right, in a sustainable way. And so when you look at it, we have over 350 employees, amazing folks. We have amazing manufacturing team that's led by Rick Barnett, and we have world-class innovation that's led by Justin. I mean, we have over 80 current and pending patents, which is unheard of in our industry. And those patents, the reason why that's relevant to a funeral professional is, one example of a patent is the way that our lid is on the Vista, a really great cremation product. We can turn that over, which allows us to fit more in a truck while we're shipping it. we pass that savings on to funeral professionals to provide them a very, very attractive price so they can make more money in cremation. We've got an awesome marketing leader and Ari Elder. I mean, I can go on and on and on about all the great leaders that we have, and they're great people. My role is to galvanize under the single vision to serve funeral professionals, right? So that our growth is with purpose. And we believe that purpose is, specifically in cremation, where funeral professionals can struggle. We have the experience and the know-how and the success of showing them how they can serve families with dignity, affordability, and excellence.
Join Kates-Boylston on November 12th for the Advances in Funeral Innovations Detroit Conference. This is a must-attend event for funeral professionals ready to embrace the future of funeral service. The event brings together renowned industry leaders for expert-led presentations and engaging discussions designed to help you stay ahead of emerging trends, sharpen your marketing strategies, streamline your operations, and deliver more personalized, meaningful services. Plus, you'll have the opportunity to network with fellow professionals, exchange ideas, and gain fresh perspectives that can elevate your business. Speakers include Danielle Burmeister, Vice President of Marketing Communications at Homesteaders Life Company, presenting Maximizing Team Performance Through Accountability and Alignment. Will Bischoff, Senior Vice President of Strategic Markets for Homesteaders Life Company, will present The Funeral Finance Roadmap, Strategies to Fund What's Next. Stephanie Castagnier-Dunn, Chief SBA Revenue Office, Phoenix SBA, a community bankshare company, will present The Silver Tsunami, the coming wave of business transactions. Matt Van Drimmelen, owner and founder of Full Circle Aftercare, will present Getting ROI Out of Aftercare at Your Funeral Home, Turning Compassion into Long-Term Value. Tom Cole, Vice President of Sales of Federal Eagle, and Nathan Hurst, National Sales Manager of Federal Eagle, will present Benefits from Funeral Car Innovation. Click on the link below for more information and to register. Earlier on, you had said something about moving closer. I'm sorry, in our pre-interview. For those of you who are listening closely, earlier on, you didn't hear. You had said about moving closer to the customer. Can you talk about how that works for, in a world where so much of things are online? How do you kind of facilitate that?
Well, I think, funeral professionals in general, right? And I guess consumers in general, you buy from people you trust, right? And you trust people that are in your community, people that spend time with you. When you can come drive and see me, right? It's much more intimate in terms of our relationship has an opportunity to grow faster over a period of time, as opposed to me being in Richmond, Indiana, and calling you and saying, hey, I'd like to earn your business. I can come to your location, see what you're doing, help you merchandise, right? All those things. And yeah, as Ellen and the team and I talked about what me joining Starmark would look like, the part that gets me excited is we need to be in over 50 territories to scale Starmark the way that we can to support funeral professionals. And the reason why that's so important is not just from a communication standpoint, but from a logistics perspective, right? The logistics of getting product from Richmond to, say, California, right, is difficult. You can get it on a big truck and you have to have a certain amount of volume and things of that nature. And those are some things that some funeral homes don't have the capacity or the time to worry about. So by having locations in the market, they can order 2 or 4 trade viewers or 2 or 4, whatever the product is, as opposed to having to order a whole pallet. And so it really opens up our opportunity to best serve our funeral customers. It also, you can get in the weeds around what kind of truck ends up going to the funeral home. So rather than having a huge truck come and drop something off, we have a smaller 26-foot box truck. And so by expanding our geographical footprint, we're able to best serve our funeral professionals.
Now, does that include, do you have or do you plan on distribution centers? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yes, we do. We do already today. I mean, we have 10 distribution centers and then some shuttles that run out of those distribution centers to support. Most of our work today is to the east of the Mississippi, but we do, and we are growing. We serve North America from our factory direct today. But the goal or the intent is over the course of the next 18 months or so to grow that to over 50 service centers, where we have in every major market a service center that can support the funeral professionals.
Wow. There was a commercial back in probably at the turn of the century, maybe earlier, when they were trying to get airlines. It was a Delta commercial, let's say, or American. Let's say it was a TWA commercial.
Okay,
just to locate it in time, and it was. All these salespeople came in, and there was like a airplane ticket on their desk, and it's like, we're tired of you calling your customers. We want you to go and see them. And like the CEO had just lost his greatest account because he hadn't been out in 1,000 years. And when you said that, you want to get more people touching, that's kind of what it reminded me of. I always say that I never thought that being a human being would be an asset, but it turns out increasingly it is.
I think so, especially with, artificial intelligence. It may become more of an asset than we're even aware of right now, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping anyway. So do you see like a massive influx? Is this something that's going to happen slowly? Is it going to happen quickly? Is it already happening and I didn't notice it?
It is already happening. Yeah, it's some of the work that, we've been working with Starmark over the past year to get moved in place. And so over the last year,
right,
you've seen 10 service centers open up, and you're going to see that accelerate. And within 18 months, we'll be in those 50 markets. And it's really exciting because it provides. I mean, at the end of the day, whether you choose to do business with Starmark, and I hope you do, or you're doing business with somebody else, we're going to make your market competitive. We want to earn your business, right? We want to serve you better. We want to give you better product at a lower cost so you can make more money. And we have solutions within the cremation space that others just don't have. And so by being closer to everyone's locations, we think it's a really great win for all funeral professionals, whether they're using a Starmark product or not.
You mentioned cremation, and it's really interesting to me. This is a good time for a person like me to be covering the industry, because now that people have accepted that cremation's not going away, everyone's kind of really putting their minds to being creative about how to make it, good for families, profitable, but also good for families. So what are some of the things that you guys are doing in the cremation space to do that?
That's great. I mean, I think most people in funeral service, right, whether they're business minded or people minded or service minded, right, realize that you have to, and it's an honor to serve a family, right, to educate them on what's possible and to deliver on what their choices are, right. And at the end of the day, cremation is a disposition choice. It doesn't mean they don't want a service. It doesn't mean they don't want catering or they don't want other things, right? And so, unfortunately, some folks have taken, when somebody calls us and says, hey, I want to do a direct cremation, they don't know what that means. I know, Tony, you've heard that a million times, right?
Yeah.
And so it is great. I understand. Now let's talk about, what you're looking for. And as you actually talk and you educate and you're talking about how to provide dignity, and you can still provide affordability and excellence. And so what Starmark does really well is, yes, some states require, ID, right? And require something. But how do we get somebody, rather from going, because the real problem is, right? People are going from a full service burial, right, to no service cremation. I mean, right? I mean, the spectrum is immense. And so what we're able to do is to work on saying, okay, if there's a service, right, it's better for the family because they get that experience. And it's better for a funeral home because they're getting the revenue and they're getting people to come in and experience what it means to have a service when you lose a loved one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what our products and services do is we can provide dignity and affordability. And so we have a Chase bed viewer where, we can still present the loved one, whether it's in a small ID setting or it's in a group gathering, and they can look as beautiful or as handsome as possible, rather than being on a cold, sterile, stainless steel table, as an example.
Right.
And so if you have a small gathering, now all of a sudden it's like, hey, maybe we should bring in a little bit of food. And so what we do is we work with locations and we help them merchandise our products that also augments their other products and services that they offer, and helps them grow revenue.
That notion, you're the second guy I talked to, I guess, this week, that's talking about how merchandising is important, how it's important to have someone come in from the outside to help you at your funeral home, just for an extra set of eyes, just for, this is what's new is happening because you're here at your funeral home with your head down running it all the time, and here are some things that you may not have had the chance to see. And I think that's really effective. Have you found that it's been an effective thing? Are you welcome now in funeral homes?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, our customer retention at Starmark is 95+%. I mean, when somebody starts buying merchandise from Starmark, they're ecstatic about it. And the reason for that is because we're listening to what they need, right? Or what's happening. And we're sharing, right? We're having a conversation. We're not just trying to push a particular product on them because that's what's best for Starmark, right? We're talking to them about what are the challenges they're facing. And then we share, hey, some of our other, funeral professionals that we're working with, these are the things that they're doing or how they're leveraging this product. And there's really more of a collaborative approach. So I would agree with whomever that was, is merchandising and having either a third party or an extra set of eyes that is aware on what's happening in different markets for something as challenging as cremation is a huge opportunity for funeral homes.
And what are some of the ways that you guys are going out after new business? I mean, or do you have people like literally out knocking on doors, or are you getting a lot of phone calls in? Like, what's been your reaction so far in the last? I mean, you've just been at it a couple months, but
It's a great opportunity. So if there's some really great people out there, we are hiring great funeral professionals and would love the opportunity to have them reach out. So they can reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email. I'm sure there'll be some notes.
show notes.
We've
Yeah.
hired perfect. We've hired 10 new local account reps. And we plan to hire continuously, aggressively, and do it in cohorts. And that is to put our Starmark representative in a local market to support that market. In addition to that, we do have inside sales, inside customer service. We have, our traditional customer experience team. We are augmenting some of that with some technology. So we're going after it in every way we can, both with humans and with technology.
What are some of the technological solutions that you're rolling out?
Yeah. So, as a funeral professional, one of the things that keeps you up at night is not having the product you need for a service, right?
Right.
Like ordering something or forgetting to ordering something, everything like that. So, we do have some technology in place where we can look at what people are ordering historically and making sure that if they're not, that we're reaching out and making sure that there's no need. And what you will find is sometimes you forget, right? Sometimes people forget. And so we're like that extra set of eyes to check on them and say, hey, do you need this? And they go, yes. One example of what we do is when we do a run to a location. As a matter of fact, I was just in Florida. Chad Ebersol is our service director in the Florida area. And the day before every run, Chad calls personally every single customer, even if we have an order. And he just says, hey, Michael, this is what I've got for you. Do you need anything else? And I will tell you, on 75% of those calls, they go, oh, yeah, I need this. And what we do is we don't make them go to a site. We don't make them do something else. Chad takes care of it. We put it in the system and we make sure that we deliver that for the customer. And that's the kind of legendary customer service that I want to see and will see throughout Starmark as we grow.
That's really exciting. And I guess you're not the person to ask this question, but you're the person who's on the phone. Like, it seems like you were chosen to do this particular thing. Do you know what they were thinking about at Starmark when they were like, all right, now is our opportunity for big expansion? Like, why now? Why now, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, yeah, I encourage you to have some follow-up conversation with Alan Elder and others, and you can kind of chat through that. But the desire for Starmark to grow into a North America's premier brand has been there for a while. And the growth has been impressive with Starmark. And I think that what is nice is there's a real synergy between my experience scaling brands, making them personal, and the need for Starmark. And so this is what I do. I've been very fortunate to be able to scale businesses. And they started the process and feel very comfortable that I'm going to be able to come in here and really listen to the team, listen to what's here, and then lead with compassion. And we have a singular vision, right, of supporting the funeral professional. And that's the end goal, which is if we're not in a market, that funeral professional doesn't have every single tool that's available to them. And that's a failure on our part. And so that's why I'm here, is to go make sure that every funeral professional has access to the product, services, and experience of our team.
Excellent. And that is pretty much all I have for you. Unless you have something else for me. Is there something I should have asked and didn't, or something you thought you'd get the opportunity to say, but I didn't provide it?
I don't know that you should ask, and that there's anything that you'd ask that you didn't. But what I would love to do is just to thank, those funeral professionals today that are using Starmark. Your business means everything to us, and that's why we're reaching out to you on a regular basis to make sure that you're good. If for any reason you have anything as a funeral professional you'd like to talk about, please reach out to me directly. I'm happy to kind of have some great conversations. And for those that are considering, hey, how could I grow my revenue, or how do I handle cremation and increasing cremation rates? We at Starmark would love the opportunity to talk with you, listen to what problems you're facing, share with you some of the solutions that we have. And I feel very confident that if given the opportunity, we can help grow their business.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate you.
Head to the National Guardian Life Insurance Company booth at this year's NFDA convention in Chicago to meet keynote speaker and pianist Felipe Gomez. Plus, be on the lookout for a big musical surprise as you head into the exhibit hall. For over 116 years, NGL has focused on providing pre-need insurance that hits all the right notes. Stop by booth 1639, that's 1639, October 26th through 29th to learn more. Funeral Service Insider, the podcast, has been a Kates-Boylston production. It was written and edited by me, Tony Russo. Please subscribe wherever you're listening. Now, actually, if you go to the show notes, there's a button that says follow. If you click on that button, it will bring you to a page with every conceivable podcatcher on it, so you can see which one you have. You can press that one, and you can be subscribed. It's really, really even more convenient than it was 6 weeks ago. Speaking of 6 weeks ago, it probably wasn't much longer than that I first reach out to Mr. Jewart to talk to him about his new job, because it was a weird press release. It was like Michael Jewart is going to be the new leader, but it wasn't clear what he was going to do, and that's kind of on purpose. He mentioned it during the interview, and he mentioned it when we were doing our pre-interview chat. They've gone with a team approach at Starmark. That really means that his job is just making sure that everyone else has what they need to do what they need to do. And of course, his eye for what works and what doesn't is what Starmark is counting on. But that'll do it for this time. We'll see you next time on Funeral Service Insider, the podcast.